Hello and thanks for joining the program, The Maze. I am Rosemary Ukokotega. The Maze is a weekly update on the proceedings of National Assembly this week, and subsequently we shall be engaging lawmakers on their legislative contributions to democratic growth. There is also a feedback mechanism to enhance your participation, so join us this time every week. You can hook up to us anywhere through all our platforms on www.asoradioandtv.com/live or StarTimes TV channel 127, Free TV channel 507, and the UHF band channel 38. You can download our app for Android at the Google Play Store and for iOS devices at the App Store. Our top stories for today. National Assembly passes Petroleum Industry Electoral Amendment Bill 2021, while PIB is now PIA by virtue of the President's assent. The Electoral Amendment Bill document still awaits transmission to the President. NAS spokesperson praised 9th Assembly's proceedings as correspondent reports. House of Reps to prioritize issue of local government electoral reforms, others as legislature progresses on constitution amendment. For details of this and more, join us after this timeout. Now, the journey of about 2 decades climaxed in July 2021 with the legislature passing the Petroleum Industry Bill, PIB, and the subsequent signing into law of the document by the President in August 2021. The lower legislature, while passing the bill, concurred with the Senate on 3% retainership for host communities.
On the PIB, what this House has once again proven that it is a house of the people, and we're ready to accommodate everybody, to accommodate all the interests. And that's why we suspended the laying of the report yesterday, despite the fact that there has been an agreement between the Senate and the House as per our rules. But we did not like the agreement. We were not too happy about the agreement. We wanted everybody to be carried along, and we suspended laying of the report. But unfortunately, Senate had already adopted their report. So there's nothing to go back to go and negotiate with Senate. They're done, and they were done with their work. So we had to abide strictly by our rules, which is for us to lay that report, to lay the conference report, and then the House will vote on whether to adopt it or not. And the House voted to adopt it. That's the procedure. That's the procedure. And that's democracy at work.
The passage was, however, not without disagreement on some clauses, as lawmakers in the minority staged a walkout of the plenary in disagreement with 3% derivatives for host communities, as passed by the Joint Senate and House Committee on PIB. The caucus briefed members of the press after their stepping out of the day's session.
The issue of PIB, the House could not come to conclusion as to whether it's 3% or 5%. As a matter of fact, the Speaker ruled yesterday directing the conference committee to go back and review it and ensure that they stand by the House position, and which the House position is 5%. This is the unfortunate situation we have found ourselves. It has never been this bad, where you can go ahead and consider a report where you do not have a quorum. So for us, whatever they are doing there is a nullity. And when we return back, we will continue with this agitation and ensure that the right thing is done.
Now, the upper legislative chamber had in the preceding day taken the bull by the horn. In a similar vein, both chambers of the National Assembly within the same period passed the Electoral Amendment Bill 2021, which now awaits transmission to the President for assent. Our correspondent, Topsy Gimba, leads on that, with process leading to the passage on the Red Chamber, where senators voted on Clause 53, subsection 3.
The clause, which empowers the National Communication Commission, NCC, to approve the electronic transmission of results subject for approval of National Assembly before the certified results can be transmitted. This followed an amendment to what has been approved earlier by the committee, saying that the results can be transmitted electronically only when and where it's practicable.
The House deleted this portion, and we're trying now to instate it. That means we may have to go for conference. But when we had the committee meeting with both the House and the Senate, we agreed that this should be deleted.
But Senator Sabi Abdullahi, APC, Niger State, sought for its amendment, giving power to NCC to approve electronic transmission of results subject to national network for such transmission to be made.
The Commission may consider electronic transmission of results provided the national coverage is adjudged to be adequate and secure by the National Communication Commission, NCC, and approved by the National Assembly.
The amendment threw the Red Chamber into chaos and disarray, which lasted for several minutes. Seeing how tense the sitting was, the Senate President, Senator Ahmed Lawan, called for a closed door. After resumption from the closed door meeting, the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Eniya Abaribe, invoked Order 73, Subsection 1 of the Senate Standing Rules, which gives power to the Senate to divide the Senate on rulings that does not go down well with some senators.
Everybody here has a right to seek for an amendment, and we should listen with some respect, please. If you don't like the amendment, you vote against it, that's all. But not to boo or jeer someone. It's not right. Please.
The Senate President expressed his concern that there is no network coverage in most communities where votes will be cast, stating that it will be unfair to disfranchise some people. Ahmed Lawan therefore gave approval for the voting, where the lawmakers voted along party lines, with the APC senators taking the majority votes. 180 senators voted, 28 gave assent to the electronic transmission, while 52 were against it. Topsy Gimba, ASO Television News.
The Green Chamber also passed the Electoral Amendment Bill 2021, leaving the decision on electronic transmission of election results to INEC. This followed the class-by-class consideration of the report on the bill at the Committee of the Whole, as presided over by the Deputy Speaker, Mr. Idris Wase, at resumed plenary. Speaker of the House, Mr. Femi Gbadabiamila, thanked his colleagues afterwards for the feat achieved, reassuring that the House would continue to make laws that would ensure continuous improvement of the country's electoral system.
We have passed the electoral amendment. We have the controversial section 52. For clarity, we have left it as provided by the committee as it came, which is to allow INEC to determine whatever they want to do. We all want electronic transmission. Clearly, we all want electronic transmission. But based on the information that we have just received from the experts, it's not as easy as it sounds. We must get our electoral process right, and that's what we seek to do. When the time has come, when they've had when they have full coverage, we can come back here and amend the law.
The Chairman, House Committee on Electoral Amendment Bill, Mrs. Aisha Duku, while briefing journalists after the plenary, explained that decision of the House to pass the bill as prepared by the Joint Committee of both chambers was sequel to understanding of the coverage and capabilities of the NCC and INEC.
What NCCE said, they confirmed that we have 50% coverage and we have 2G and 3G. That is 50%. And that is not enough to transmit results. Secondly, we asked, is hacking of the server of INEC possible? And they said, yes, it's very possible. So the House, in its wisdom, accepted what the Joint Committee did, the Joint Committee of the Senate and the House. And this is it. This is Section 52 and I'm going to read what it says. It says 52.2. Voting at an election and transmission of result under this bill shall be in accordance with the procedure determined by the Commission. This is what the two joint committees did, and this is what the House adopted.
According to her, the past Electoral Act is a ticket to a credible poll come 2023.
We cannot afford to disenfranchise one person that is an eligible voter, because each vote must count. You remember that in 2019, there was an allegation that INEC server was hacked, if you recall. So, we cannot afford to put something in the law that is ambiguous.
For the spokesman of the House, Mr. Benjamin Kalu, passage of the Electoral Amendment Bill as well as the Petroleum Industry Bill, not minding any trailing controversy, is a feat to remember the 9th Assembly for.
The PIB has been passed by Senate, and a thorny clause from the report was the issue of 3%, 5%. A conference committee was set up which brought a report that did not go down well with the House. They were mandated to go back and interact with their colleagues at the Senate. When the report came back and we saw it signed by majority, saying that that is what Nigeria wants now for 3%, there is no other option open in our books outside that conference to revisit that matter. We have gone the whole 9 yards at this level. It's a better position from what was proposed by the executives who proposed the bill. You know, it's an executive bill that came with 2.5%. The fight for the House has always stood for 5%. But when we go through the 9 yards and didn't work, we had to, in the spirit of unity, cohesion, progress of this nation, had to accept that. On the electoral bill, one thing you must take home remains that the thorny issue was 52.2, clause 52.2 of the Electoral Act 2010 number 6 amendment bill. What is the current position? Is that it's at the discretion of the unbiased umpire to decide as to when it is necessary to use electronic transmission or to use manual transmission. Like I said, no piece of legislation is perfect. As I've always said, if men could question the 10 Commandments written by God himself, I am not sure that there is any law that will not be faulted by fellow mortals. But in doing so, let us weigh where we are coming from, where we are now, and where we are going, and see whether the legislation is making an effort towards addressing our journey so far to the best global practices. We may not be there, but are we heading there? It appears so.
Well, while President Muhammadu Buhari already signed the PIB into law in August 2021, that of the Electoral Amendment Bill 2021 is still waiting. Whereas what had been known as the PIB for nearly 10 years is now PIA, reactions are still trailing an aspect of it, which is the 3% set aside for the host communities. Our correspondent, Topsy Gimba, brings us one of such reactions from a South senator.
Senator Helisiri Kidison said the executive proposed 2.5% production costs for the host communities and sent it to the National Assembly for approval.
And let's be very clear. That's why I am of the view that this 3% that we have passed, the National Assembly bills that have passed today, is not helpful to the host communities. It's not helpful even to the oil companies. It is also not helpful to the country. Because if we want to attract investment, then we must all work hard, hand in hand with the host communities. Get their buy-in, get their understanding, get their support, and first create an enabling environment for investments to thrive.
According to him, host communities are the most important partners in the PIB and deserve nothing less than 3%. He noted that the decision of the National Assembly on the PIB should be reviewed before it assent by the President, adding that 30% set aside for oil exploration in any part of the country was self-centered, considering the 3% approved by the National Assembly for the oil-producing communities in the Niger Delta. He insisted for justice, fairness, and equity to be followed. On the electoral bill, the lawmaker also clarified that the draft bill took care of the points raised by lawmakers at the level of committee and wondered why lawmakers voted against the decision earlier agreed upon at the committee level.
While casting my vote for electronic transmission, as you all know, I made it very clear that it is unconstitutional for the National Assembly, for any arm, for anybody, to subordinate the independence and operational powers and discretion conferred by the Constitution on INEC. You can't subordinate INEC to any other body. It is not constitutional.
He stated that it was wrong for National Assembly to subordinate the powers conferred on INEC on the performance of its constitutional rights to another agency, no matter how highly placed. Topsy Gimba, ASO Television News.
Time to go a little down memory lane of the present assembly. The National Assembly, as it is today, being a bicameral legislature, is established under Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution and modeled after the United States Congress. The two houses were established in 1959, with most of the newly constituted 48-member body appointed to their seats. However, as the number of states increased subsequently, so the lawmakers, providing for the present 109 senators consisting of 3 members from each of the 36 states and 1 member from Abuja, the federal capital, and 360 representatives with members representing constituencies of nearly equal population as far as possible. All members of both houses are directly elected every 4 years. From the 1st to the 8th and the present 9th Assembly, Nigerians have continued to form opinions of how the lawmakers are representing their interests, especially through the quality of bills. In this special report, we x-ray the 9th Assembly in the area of execution of bills since inception. We now bring you the report, after which the program continues. Since the return to democratic rule in 1999, the Assembly has been said to be a learning process, with 8 different assemblies already come and gone and the 9th Assembly now in place. One critical legislative function of the National Assembly is the creation of bills which are made into laws to serve as guides for effective governance. Analysis shows that the 9th NAS has proposed more bills than previous National Assemblies. Already, around 2,149 bills have been introduced by both chambers since inception, while 742 of the bills are on the floor of the Senate. 1,407 are from the Green Chamber. 275 bills comprising 29 constitutional alterations, 115 concurrents, and 131 others have been passed into law. Precisely in the past 2 years of the present Assembly, the Senate passed 58 out of the 742 bills introduced at the 2 sessions, while the Reps, in a statement by its spokesperson, already passed 88 of the 1,407 bills introduced in the past 2 years. Whereas some of these bills have been adjudged controversial by some analysts, others, such as the Petroleum Industry Bill (PIB), is one bill many have for long anticipated its passage. And just before the 2021 annual recess of the National Assembly, both chambers passed the bill, giving way for its signing into law in August by the President.
The PIB so far has received the kind of attention that we promise Nigerians that we'll give it.
On the PIB, what this House has once again proven that it is a house of the people, and we're ready to accommodate everybody, to accommodate all the interests. But we had to abide strictly by our rules, which is for us to lay that report, to lay the conference report, and then the House will vote on whether to adopt it or not. And the House voted to adopt it. That's the procedure. That's the procedure. And that's democracy at work.
Contrary to postulation from some quarters that the 9th Assembly is underperforming, its leadership is giving the lawmakers a pat at the back.
We promise Nigerians that we'll give it. And we thank God we have been able to do so much, learning from our mistakes of the past.
Through it all, the 9th House of Representatives has carried on its constitutional duty to make laws for the good government of the country. After multiple failed attempts over 2 decades, the Petroleum Industry Bill has passed both houses in the National Assembly. We recognize that where much has been done, there is still a lot left to do. We are aware that though much has been achieved, there remains many challenges that task us, that require of us that we work harder, collaborate better, and make the hard decisions that are required for progress and prosperity.
Well, with around 2 years more to go for the present assembly, Nigerians are expectant of a worthy landing. Still looking at how the present assembly has fared in these past 2 years, the lower legislative chamber at one of its news briefings raised the alarm that paucity of funds is slowing down the pace of work. Spokesman of the House, Mr. Benjamin Kalu, at a weekly media parley with journalists covering the Green Chamber, said it is pertinent that the budgetary allocation of the lawmakers is urgently reviewed.
The House is broke and afraid of your complaint as Nigerian to make provision for what will help them run the activities of the House. That is why today here is hot. That is why the hearing rooms are not fixed. That is why the House is indebted to contractors who provide one form of service or the other. This is the fact. And until Nigerians believe that the appropriation that was made for the running of the National Assembly, which happened when dollar was 180, 160 to the naira, is still the same, or it's lesser. It's less now than what it used to be. And the dollar equivalent to naira has gone up to 400 and something. The purchasing power of the budget as it is now is weaker than it was 10 years ago. The budget of the National Assembly is supposed to be reviewed in view of its purchasing ability, of the services that will help the Parliament to move forward. At the moment, it is a weak budget. And that is the truth. We appropriate for agencies to run effectively, and yet we are in penury to run our own constitutional mandate. It's a disservice to Nigerians. The poor budget of the Parliament is a disservice to Nigeria. Let's be fair in our analogy. Let's wear the right spectacle when we analyze. And you will find out that this 120-something billion that is divided among all the agencies of the National Assembly, that is divided among all the staff, over 3,000 to 6,000 staff, that is divided among all the aides, 5 aides to national, and sometimes people wonder, do you need those aides? How do you think we will function in making good laws? You need solid experts to work for you. You go to America, you see professors who are consulting, who are working directly with members of the parliament. That is why when they come out with their laws and their bills and their motion, it is something that addresses the problems of the country. But can we afford it as we are? The answer is no, we can't. And that is the truth. So if you ask me 20 times until they improve the budget of the National Assembly, whether the National Assembly is broke, I will tell you we are broke.
Well, the spokesman of the Green Chamber, though, assured that the legislature would, amidst all odds, live up to its responsibility of delivering democratic dividends to the people. One aspect of national life the present assembly has been working on in its 2 years of legislating is the review of the 1999 Constitution as amended to meet the yearnings of the different regions. To achieve this, the lower chamber is prioritizing the issue of local government, electoral and judicial reforms. Deputy Speaker of the House, Mr. Idris Wase, who is also the chairman of the Constitution Review Committee, who disclosed this at a retreat organized for members of the committee in Abuja, said it has become evident that the country is passing through challenges as a result of the non-workable local government system. Hence, the need for special attention to that aspect of the Constitution from the lawmakers. Mr. Wase also stressed that electoral review is particularly important to give a redirect to the country's democratic growth. He stated further that the House may consider other agitations by various groups in the country, including the issue of state creation and women participation. According to the Deputy Speaker, the lawmakers would have their names written in gold if they do everything possible to produce a people-oriented constitution. Similarly, the upper chamber has gathered memoranda from across states for further consideration in the amendment. Deputy Senate President and Chairman Ad Hoc Committee on Constitution Review, Senator Ovie Omoagege, told newsmen that 16 thematic bills have been identified following the memoranda collated. Senator Omoagege, who was briefing the newsmen ahead of the commencement of the Zonal Constitution Review in Abuja, revealed that about 250 memoranda had already been collated to guide the amendment process, which shall lead to a peoples-oriented constitution. The Deputy Senate President further highlighted devolution of power, gender, true federalism, among other areas, as frequently mentioned in the review process. Senate correspondent Topsy Gimba reports that a national zonal meeting would be convened in Abuja after the zonal meeting across the country to provide opportunity for those who couldn't make it to their zones for holistic contribution. Now, as a way of rounding off the program for today, we will take a quick look at one of the bills still under consideration by lawmakers. This is a bill seeking constitutional power for both chambers of the National Assembly and state houses of assembly to summon the president and governors on national issues. The bill, sponsored by Mr. Sejos OGUN, PDP Edo, passed second reading at the House of Representatives in March 2021. The Mace had a one-on-one with the lawmaker.
Remember sometime last year, the House made a resolution to summon the president or invite the president, because people are offended by the word summon. We are not operating a monarchy, it's a constitutional democracy. So the House invited the president to come talk to us about the security situation in the country, because it was a case of almost every hour people were being killed, maimed, and all. And it was happening everywhere in the country. And about that time, I think 3 people were kidnapped in a federal institution in my constituency. It was not even in the news, or shortly after that time. So we felt it was necessary for the president to speak to us so that we can take whatever he has told us, get some comfort from whatever he was going to tell us, and take it to our constituency. But the speaker and the leader of the House even went further to talk to him, just to assure him. And then he agreed to come. And then the next thing we heard, he was advised by the Attorney General of the Federation that he didn't have to honor it. And some of us still believed it today that it was a missed opportunity. Because basically, all he needed to do, you didn't need to have the press there. Because usually the security chiefs have come to brief us and you don't allow the press there. It's usually an executive session. So that could have easily happened. Some people say, well, you have invited the the service chiefs before. So what is new? Why do you want the president to come? It's not the same. If you send a child a message and the child delivers the message, you are not satisfied and you want to hear directly from the father. Is there anything wrong with that? Especially when the father is responsible to you. Not to us as elected members, but to Nigerians, who elected all of us, because we were supposed to take that message back to our constituencies to say, look, the president is working hard on it. You had expectation everywhere. The president was coming to appear before the National Assembly. He's going to tell us something. And that weekend, I was actually in the constituency. I probably would have heard the message to say, look, the president is working hard on it, even though his advisors tell us that. But your rep, your senator, calling meeting to say, look, the president has taken steps. And by the grace of God, hopefully that something will happen very soon. It's comforting, even if it's going to yield the immediate result. So, again, I think it was a misstep and a missed opportunity.
And from there you felt like coming up with
yes. Yeah. Even though the Constitution really allows us to do others, the National Assembly has powers in the Constitution to make law on the exclusive list and the concurrent list, make law for the entire federation, And then we also have powers in, that's Section 4 now, we also have powers in Section 88 and 89 of the Constitution to invite anybody, But somebody said the president is not anybody. Okay, if he's not anybody, what is he?
He's a president.
He's a president, but he's somebody before he became president. And as a president, he's still somebody answerable to Nigerians. So the Constitution already gave that power, but from what the Attorney General advised him, they say we didn't have express power. Because even what the Attorney General referred to Section 281 sub 1. If you go down that same section, Section 4 sub 4, 281 4 sub 4, says that power he can exercise over the military is if he's subjected to the approval of the National Assembly. That he can send army to Maiduguri or to the southeast or northeast. It has to be by the approval of the National Assembly. So what are we talking about? So we are saying, okay, fine, let's even forget all this. Let's make it express. Because if we have powers to make laws for you to spend trillions, we also have powers to say, we need to tell us the trillions that is being spent out there. How are you spending it? Now it's express. By the grace of God, we have made it. We are going through the constitutional review now. I think we have rounded up the public hearing around the country. So it's there.
Okay, now can we actually get specifically what section your document rather is trying to alter, and from what phrase to now make the president comes as such when you want him to come?
It's 67 sub 3, which is already in the Constitution. But that sub 3 is saying that anybody that is not a member of the National Assembly cannot vote and all that. But we are not saying no. The amendment is saying that we have powers to invite him and he must appear.
Okay, now there's one major concern actually, because I was at the plenary that day, and being a PDP lawmaker, what is your confidence actually, or do you see it coming out without opposition?
The motion to invite the president was moved by an APC honorable member, seconded by an APC honorable member, presided over by an APC speaker, and it was carried by the whole house. So this time around, there was no politics about it, no party politics about it, because we are all hurting. All our constituencies, not just Northeast. Mostly that's why the big got the acceptance. Yeah, because I got APC members and some ABGA members that told me they were staying back to vote on the bill.
Okay. Then again, after the whole session, I think an argument cropped up because the bill actually consents the president, whose assent is needed for it to become a law. Do you foresee any decline on his part when the document gets with him?
He is not likely to decline. I'll tell you this because I'm sure by the time it becomes law proper, he would have left office. It's the right thing to do. Like in the US, when you have the State of the Union, it's in their laws. The president goes to brief, to speak to Americans once in a year. And he does that in Congress. So we don't have that in our laws. So what is wrong? If we now say, okay, for this is a burning issue in this country, come talk to us. Nothing. Especially when the leadership of the House went to see him to say, look, you are protected. Nothing wrong at all in making an appearance. If anything, would have even added to whatever respect some people have for him.
And that's the program for today. Thanks for starting with us. We look forward to a constant appearance together. I am Rosemary Ukokotega. Enjoy your weekend. National Assembly moves to regulate rent in Federal Capital Territory.